Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Young, Black, and Vegan. I'm your host, Keith Terrell. This next interview has been in the works since I started the show, so almost 2 years. My next guest is a Nike global trainer. He is an executive at Core Power Yoga. He's a philanthropist. He's the founder of Warrior Retreats and so many more things. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss 1 minute of this episode. Please welcome to the show none other than my brother, Branden Collinsworth.
Respect.
King.
Such an honor to be here.
So good to see you, man. Thank you for coming out.
Absolutely.
Man. Came through with your luggage. You about to jump on the flight
Absolutely,
and head out
man.
right after this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's good. How you feeling?
I feel blessed. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I love seeing what you are creating, and it's an honor just to be able to drop in at this incredible restaurant and talk life, talk magic, talk ascension, and talk what it really means to truly live from our power and stand in our truth.
It's only right that we're at this restaurant, Crossroads, because, you know, our roads crossed at a particular time, and we connected on set and just kind of stayed in touch ever since. And, you know, to be able to form a brotherhood with you has been amazing, man.
Isn't it wild how that works? How, like, out of everybody on that set that day, I don't talk to any of them, even some of the trainers that were on that set.
Wow.
But you and me just had this kindred connection, and all these years later, I believe it was 7 years later, we ended up in Peru.
Yeah.
But we were always in each other's sphere and always in each other's frequency, and that really embodies the statement, you know, game recognizes game.
100%. I mean, even when I met you on set, I knew, yo, that's somebody that's supposed to be in my life.
Right.
And so, you know, everything happens when it's supposed to happen, man. But I want to jump into your story a little bit.
Yeah, 100.
You know, when we typically think of Las Vegas, we think of glitz, glamour, you know, casinos, money, and all of this. But you grew up on the east side of Las Vegas, right? Which was quite different. What was that like?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that outside of the Strip, Vegas has one of the highest crime rates in the nation. I'm talking like on par with like Detroit's and Baltimore's. It has one of the highest drug rates in the nation. It has the worst or like second to worst school district in the nation. It's always bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
And so it's a city of polarities. You have the lights, you have the billion-dollar hotels, you have the hopes and dreams of what is possible. But the truth is those casinos don't get rich and that big by creating millionaires.
Right.
And so outside of the Strip, especially on the east side of Las Vegas, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of vices that have gone unchecked, there's a lot of generational poverty and broken dreams. And I happened to grow up in the east side of Vegas in several different projects, Section 8 housing, where the norm was to either be dead, go to jail, or end up in, you know, in some institution that doesn't care about your well-being.
Thank you so much.
Fire.
Thank you. That's interesting because I never knew that Vegas had projects or any of these things, right? And so at 16, you dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
How do you go from dropping out of high school at 16 and transcending your circumstances to becoming an Ivy League graduate and the king that I'm sitting in front of right now?
Yeah, like all heroes, you got to go on that journey. A lot are tested. Not everybody makes it to the other side. One of the gifts my mother gave me was the love for books. And about 4 years old, she taught me to read. She used to pull out all these Dr. Seuss books, and we would have speed reading contests to who could speak green eggs and ham the fastest. And so I had a love for books, and books was one of the ways I escaped from poverty, comic books especially. So by the time I was 16, the streets really began to grab me. And on top of that, some of the depression and anxiety I felt that I had no resources and no outlets for, and my mom being a single parent working at Walmart, she really couldn't take care of me. So from 16 to 18, I really lost myself into street life. And what that looked like is I became really dependent on alcohol. I started to really lose myself in weed. I started to lose myself in the streets and getting in fights. And one by one started seeing a lot of my friends either end up in jail or dead. And I had this aha epiphany moment sitting at the bus stop on the east side of Las Vegas in front of this hotel called Sam's Town, where something inside me told me if I didn't change, I was gonna die. Yeah. And I remember looking to my left and there was a guy who looked like me, but he had like no life in his eyes. He looked just like me, but he was like strung out on some drugs. And at that time I had never left Las Vegas. So I always speak about the mountains around Las Vegas as like a prison. If you've never left Vegas, it becomes like this prison, and these neon lights of the hotel, they just like tease you of what's possible, but you can never actually get it. It's like the unobtainable. Wow. And I think that that contrast is what forces so many people to like lose themselves in devices, because when you're broke and you're poor and you're looking at billions of dollars all the time lit up on the horizon, you're like, is it me? And so it's really easy to get caught up out there. It was that day at that bus stop I made a decision that I was just gonna try to do whatever I could to get out. And it took me back to 4 years old and my love for books. Yeah. And something inside me told me that if I became a voracious consumer of knowledge and wisdom, I could escape my circumstances. And that's really what happened. Is it took 10 years for me to actually break out of the poverty that held me in Vegas. 10 years of focus, 10 years of grinding, 10 years of like going after it. And that was just to get to like baseline. Yeah. I was so deep beneath the ground when it came to like behind in academics, behind financially, behind educationally, that it took me 10 years just to get to baseline. If I was told at that bus stop that it was gonna be as hard as it was, I might not have gone on that journey. Wow. If I was told that it was going to be as heartbreaking as it was, I might not have gone on that journey. But looking back now, I'm so happy that I did. I look at that kid who was 18 years old, and I just give him so much love and props for like having the fortitude to like choose something different. Yeah. And at that time, the only thing that I could choose was my heart. And so really, it's been 20 years since that happened, and it's been a journey of continuously coming back to my heart and just listening to what it wants and trusting that it knows the path regardless of the circumstances.
What's interesting about that is we both were at bus stops when pivotal decisions were made in our lives. So I was sitting at a bus stop on Crenshaw Boulevard when I got picked up. You know the story, and that was the road that I went on. So it was a journey of wrong decisions for me, but your moment at that bus stop led to a journey of transcending your circumstances. So, I applaud you for just having the fortitude to like want something better and going for something better, And we got some food here. We got a lot of conversation to jump into, but we want to jump into this and we're going to continue talking. So yeah, man.
This looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love this restaurant. The Crossroads is fire, bro.
Crossroads is like as good as it gets.
It's like a flower.
It's like almost flowers. So beautiful, you don't even know what to eat.
Wow.
How is that?
That zucchini flower though?
That zucchini flower, bro?
I mean, it's phenomenal.
That's good. It's like
so there's love in there, bro.
Some kind of cream cheese or something in there.
Yeah, man.
That's fire.
Wow. Yeah, this place does it right. And you can go many different directions with vegan food. But when you do it right, you feel that nourishment, just like you feel your cells light up. That's what's happened, like as I've gotten more in tune with my body, is I can feel my cells literally absorbing the nutrients when it's good food.
Right.
When it's not good food, I feel the toxicity like almost instantly. So what was crazy, man, when I made that decision, my mom, she came up to me and she said there's this program called Job Corps. And she was like, I think you should apply for it. And she's like, because I really fear that the streets are gonna kill you. And so she took me, got on the public bus, she took me to the Job Corps application center. I applied.
Yeah.
5 months passed and I got in. And this was my first time being able to leave Vegas. And Job Corps at that time was up in northern Nevada at an old Air Force base in this city called Stead, Nevada. And basically, when you get there, you're put into a dorm with like 150 plus other young men.
Right.
And you're put on like a military schedule. And so I was there for like 6 months. But my first week there, I had another friend come up there from Vegas with me. He almost got in a fight with some dude.
Yeah.
And I broke up the fight. And so that night I'm in my dorm room, and all of a sudden the door opens up, and the dude that I broke up the fight with and two of his homies came in, and they slid the bed in front of the door, and he came up and he just punched me in my face. And I had to like fight for my life. And
Wow.
it was crazy because there, if you got in one fight, you got kicked out.
Right.
So after we got in this fight, I had to just swallow it, knowing that I had some beef there, and continue forging forward with the mission. And I remember there was a moment after the fight, I walked outside, I had blood all over my shirt. I stepped into the snow, there was blood dripping all over the ground. I had a big old hematoma on the top of my head. But I felt cool and calm inside. And something in me was like, this is that resistance point.
Yeah.
Because you know the only place you're gonna go if you leave here is right back to the streets. In that moment, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna let anybody or anything take this opportunity away from me. And at that time, the opportunity wasn't massive. It was just getting my high school diploma and my GED,
Yeah.
which eventually led me to getting one college credit.
Mm-hmm.
But that was enough to give me the belief in myself that I could continue forward and go to college. And so after that happened, it took me about 6 months to finish the program. Ended up getting in really good shape. Realized that structure is something that I need, which I think a lot of kids that grow up in the streets, that's really all they're missing is some structure.
Right.
And a system. And that was the motivation and momentum that I ended up going to the community college of Southern Nevada. Was there for 4 years. The first 2 years didn't count because my grades were so bad. And it took me a while to get proficient enough in math to actually, enroll in courses that counted. 4 years at the community college, and then that led to me going and getting my bachelor's at UNLV, and then eventually that led to me getting my master's. But it was like these little moments in time where I had a decision to make. It was a choice. I can go down one path, or I can go down the other path. I could go back to what is comfortable, or I could step into what is not comfortable. And what I'm learning, and what I've learned again and again and again on my path, is that oftentimes growth is not comfortable. Oftentimes, like, what is comfortable is not our highest level of self. And it's this journey of going again and again back into the focus of, like, what is it that I really need to grow?
Yeah.
That really opens up those doors time and time again. And so it's a muscle, and that muscle has been cultivated over the last 20 years through stepping into uncomfortable situations or things that don't necessarily feel good initially, but inevitably open up the doors to a higher level of me.
So did you have more beef with this dude throughout your time there? Was that like a one-off? Like, what happened with that?
So it's interesting that when we choose to walk our path and, walk towards our truth, guardian angels appear in all forms. So not only did that dude have beef with me, a lot of dudes there had beef with me. I think it was one, like, just how I held myself. I've always had a little bit of competitive nature, like, you can't beat me, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And I was proud. Like, my mom raised me to be proud always.
Yeah.
So after I got into that scrap, more of the guys up there started, like, beefing with me. And then all of a sudden one day, nobody was beefing with me. And it was the weirdest thing. I didn't realize until I graduated that my friend Dean, who went up there with me, who ended up not graduating, he went to each and every one of them, several of them like gangbangers, and told them that if they messed with me at all, that he was gonna have his way with them.
Wow.
And Dean is one of those dudes you don't mess with.
Yeah.
And so it's wild, like, that he didn't make it out of that program. I made it out. But somebody behind the scenes saw that I was trying to do the best I could with my life. And without me even knowing it, took it on his behalf to go to these dudes and let them know to not mess with Branden.
Yeah, he saw that light in you.
Exactly.
And, like, protected that, man.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about childhood for a second.
Cool.
So I grew up in South Central LA, and at one time we were staying with my grandmother. So this is the place where everybody in the house could go. I mean, everybody in the family could go to, right? And so at one time there was up to like 14 people living in this house, a 3-bedroom house. We had 2 refrigerators in the house. And so we had my aunt and her 3 kids, they had a refrigerator, and then it was a refrigerator for the rest of the house. My aunt and her kids, they had all the name brand snacks, all the name brand cereals, everything. They had snacks galore, right? Our refrigerator sometimes just didn't have anything to grab. So there were times where I literally like snuck in the kitchen and stole food from my own house, you know? And psychologically that does something to a kid, right? You tell a story about riding a bike with your sister and your mom, and you ride the bikes to go behind a building and wait, and someone would come out and throw food into a dumpster. Your mom would give you a look and you would climb in to get the food. Can you just kind of talk about like, what does that do to a kid, and like how did that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first times I realized that I was poor. And something in me just knew that it wasn't normal.
Yeah.
But it also made me realize that like I had a duty to my family, I had a duty to my mother, I had a duty to, you know, my little sister, being the only man of the house. And
at this point, you're how old, and how old is your sister?
I'm about 7 years old at this time.
So at 7 years old, your mentality is, I'm the man of the house.
100%.
So you didn't, like, you know, like so many of us, actually get to experience a childhood. You just had to grow up fast because you saw a need, and like you embodied, like, if not me, who else? So I have to do it. That's wild.
Yeah, it was like that where we grew up.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of single mothers. And a lot of my friends were just young boys with no fathers. And so we took it upon ourselves to like become tough.
Yeah.
We took it upon ourselves to like, you know, learn to fight. We took it upon ourselves to like stand for the women in our lives.
Yeah.
And in single parent households, when the single mom is like, it's time to roll, it's time to roll. And so there was no question when my mom said, yo, we have to go behind the supermarket called Albertsons at 4:30 a.m. in the morning to, you know, get some of the day old food. There was no question about, you know, making it happen. It was like, we got to do this. And that became part of the survival mechanism. Like at a young age, we just learned to do what it needed to happen and, you know, not question it. There were times where we didn't have washers or a washer or dryer. So we would wash our clothes in the bathtub. And I remember in the middle of the winter, there would be no hot water. So we'd be washing the clothes in the bathtub in freezing cold water. And we'd be like in it, stepping on the clothes to like simulate the oscillation of the washer to clean the things and things like that. Or for example, going to the welfare spot and staying there for like 9-10 hours. And a lot of people who've been there know they don't treat you like people. But you know, like willpower and resiliency in poverty somehow always keeps the lights on and keeps food coming no matter what.
Yeah.
Or even, for example, you know, the WIC coming for my little sister, and the blocks of cheese and the meat or whatever they're feeding us showing up at the door. It was always this constant game of like having enough, keeping a roof over our head, staying warm enough, having enough clothes and things like that. Like looking back on all that, I'm so grateful that I went through all that because it taught me to hustle. It taught me to find the blessings even in the hardest of circumstances. It taught me to like trust that even if it felt like there was no way out, there's always a way out if you look hard enough.
Yeah.
But as a young man, as a young boy, it does definitely take its toll. And you start to develop like all types of coping mechanisms to deal with something that's inherently not natural.
Not at all. I mean, to be a 7-year-old child, to have to wake up to go get food at 4:30 in the morning, like you just didn't have the opportunity to like enjoy life at that age. You should just be having fun and carefree, but you know, you were kind of like thrust into that. So man, I commend you for like transcending all of that.
Hello, yes.
Yes. Ooh, thank you. Let's jump into this pasta, man. We're gonna jump into some more conversation, but yo, have you ever had a vegan egg in your life, bro?
I mean, it looks so real. I was just saying, like, what if a vegan chicken was birthed?
Hey, if a vegan chicken is birthed, I don't know, it might turn into a different type of show. taste test. That's what it's all about.
I mean,
you know what I mean? They even got the yolk.
I know,
This
just
is
like
crazy,
the
man.
contrast though. It's just incredible.
Fire, bro.
It's the flavor profile. It's a journey. Done right, all food should be an experience. That's an experience right there. That's a retreat in itself. You know what I mean?
Inspired. Yo, Crossroad Kitchen.
Yeah.
Inspired. Check it out.
It's probably some of the best pasta I've ever had, man.
It's some good pasta,
Wow.
man. You redeveloped your love for reading and became a voracious reader. What are top 3 books that have changed your life that you've read?
Great question. So, the first book that I read once a year is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's just so robust and parallels the hero's journey in so many ways. It's
Yeah.
always a reminder to like trust my personal legend, trust my heart, look for the omens, and remember that my heart knows the way. And the moment I stop listening to my heart is the moment that I'm gonna start going down roads and paths that are not in my highest alignment and towards my highest truth. Second book is the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, A Narrative of a Slave. That story should be mandatory reading for anybody and everybody who is an American citizen or anybody and everybody who wants to learn the power of not only manifestation,
Yeah.
but as we spoke about in Peru, praying with your legs. For a man to grow up on a plantation as a slave, completely removed from all knowledge outside of that plantation, who was in prison through slave codes, where it was illegal to teach them how to read, and for him to voraciously trust the heartbeat that was speaking to him, and to educate himself, and to endure the tragedy and the trauma of slavery, to rise up to becoming one of the greatest minds in our history, is absolutely incredible. And that book right there is one of those books that is timeless.
Yeah, well, you sold me. I'm going to read that book
Yeah.
because I haven't read that one. And whatever the description on Amazon is, needs to be changed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that. Because,
Yeah.
that definitely sounds like something I have to pick up. So that's 2.
Yeah.
What's your 3rd?
Well, I'll leave you with one quote from that book real quick. And this is where praying with your legs came from. He said, I prayed for my freedom for 20 years, but nothing changed until I started praying with my legs.
That's a bar.
It's a bar. Because he was sitting there and he was like, all of these slaves are just praying. But if you don't follow your prayer up with action,
Yeah.
nothing's going to change. And so it's always a remembrance for me to like lean into the action and into the momentum of what happens when we take that first step forward. And then my 3rd book that has just been life-changing for me in a lot of ways, but it's more light but super deep, is Oh, the Places You Will Go by Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. and that book right there is just a bar on every page. It is, it really encapsulates the journey of like the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, the adventure of life.
Yeah.
And then inevitably through it all, we'll find our North Star. We'll find our highest level of love. We'll find our highest level of life. But the most important thing is to go on the journey.
Go on the journey.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And I love that you can grab like nuggets for life in any, in an autobiography or in a Dr. Seuss books, man. But, journeys. This has been a theme that has come up a few times. We just went on a life-changing journey together. But before we go to the actual, praying with our legs, we just got back from Peru. You are the founder of Warrior Retreats. So let's start off by saying, what is Warrior Retreats? Why did you create it?
Warrior Retreats was a gift. It was a gift. It was a golden amulet, like Indiana Jones, that came as a result staying true to my heart and walking my hero's journey. 27 years old. I'm at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm a senior. I'm a personal trainer at this time. You know, a couple years removed of being like entrenched in poverty. Starting to see like the power of manifestation work in real time. Really starting to understand the power of my thoughts. And at that time, I just come to peace that I might never ever see my father. I'll never meet him. Just, you know, came to terms and grips with the fact that that was going to be my path. So I'm in my senior level class, African American film, and I had this professor named Stan Armstrong, and he was a African American film documentarian, which you appreciate.
100%.
He would do all the research and showcase like super counterculture stories like the Black Confederate soldiers and things like that. And so he told me he was doing a documentary at a local high school in Vegas called Valley High School. And Valley High School happened to be the high school that both my mom and dad went to. And I remember my mom told me that she met my father like a long time ago and that they both went to Valley High School. And so I remember saying, I think my parents went there.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, is your dad named Lane Rowling? And I
Wow.
go, yeah, that's my father's name. And he goes, are you serious? He's like, you look just like him. That's my big brother's best friend.
Wow.
So he calls up his big brother, Sal. His big brother calls up my dad, and that night my father calls me for the first time.
Wow. So
We have our
27 years old, this is the first time
First time.
you're calling your dad, and it just so happens that you're taking this class.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
it's incredible, yeah. So we have this conversation and come to find out he's an infectious disease doctor, a trauma surgeon. And initially, I could have gone into this, why were you not there for me? You know, what happened? You're a horrible dad, all that stuff. But at that time, I was really dropping into deep self-love for myself. And I really was in appreciation of my journey. And I was working on forgiveness and I was working on gratitude. And so instead of going down that road and just completely, you know, writing him off, I decided to open up the doors and begin to build a relationship with him. So at first it was over the phone. Come to find out, he was living in the Amazon jungle of Peru, doing deep work with the tribes. Down there they call him Dr. Chocolate or Dr. Fanta.
Yeah.
I went to grad school, and after I finished grad school, I made the decision to go down to Peru and meet my father for the first time. So in 2012, I went down to Peru, got down to Iquitos, where you've been.
Yes, sir.
He took me into the jungles. He took me into the jungle's hospitals. He took me into the inner workings of the people of Peru, and I fell in love with Peru. And for 5 years, I would spend 2 to 3 months a year down in Peru working with the people of Peru with my father. So 2012 all the way to 2016. About 2016, from 2012 to 2016, my training career took off. I ended up opening up a gym downtown Vegas. That gym turned into 2 gyms. 2 gyms turned to 4 gyms. I started training people all around the world. I got signed to Nike. I started to dive deeper into yoga. And the dreams that I once had as a kid about like making it, I was living it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I, again, started to feel that feel of there was more out there than what I was currently experiencing. It's one thing to know there's more out there and you have nothing. It's a different thing to know that there's more out there and you feel like you have everything.
Yeah.
And so 2016, as I'm doing a lot of yoga and I'm starting to open up the doors to plant medicine, I realized that through my father's work, I had access to the master teachers of the Peruvian Amazon.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they were like my brothers. They were people that I loved, that I worked with, and it didn't click until 2016. It's like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will, eventually appear.
Right.
So 2016, I was like, you know what? I gotta share Peru with some of my friends. I just started working with ayahuasca, started working with plant medicine, started seeing how it was helping me heal some of the traumas that I underwent as a child, started to see like that I was so much more than this physical body or all these labels that they told me I was, my skin color, my bank account, my history. I started to really like connect with myself on a deeper level. And so after a ceremony down there, I came out of the ceremony, looked up at the mountains, and I said, I got to share this with some friends. So I called up 2 friends.
Yeah.
I said, I want you guys to come down. You have to come down and experience this. 2 months later, I had 20 people come with me down to Peru. The
Wow.
first retreat was just me hosting a whole bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
And it was only 7 days, and it was incredible. And after that, I was like, I need to continue to share this. And that's when the name of my retreat company came to me, which is Warrior Retreats. And I use the word warrior because I feel like anybody who is standing in their truth, anybody who is going after their goals, anybody who's trying to bring their dreams to life, that truly is the path of the warrior.
Yeah.
Because not everybody takes that step forward. It takes courage to go after our highest level of truth. It takes courage to go for it. And that's what warrior truly means. But more importantly than that, what really makes a warrior powerful is heart.
Yeah.
And so when I brought my friends down for the first time, the plant medicine was powerful. Machu Picchu was powerful. The adventure was powerful. But where I saw the most medicine was when I took them into the hospitals. And they were able to like work with the people of Peru. And you got some kid that's like literally on his deathbed. And he's smiling and he's in gratitude. And that's when I saw that Peru was medicine unlike anything I've ever experienced for my tribe, my people, my brothers and sisters in the West to come down and actually reconnect with their hearts, reconnect with the lands, reconnect with their purpose.
Yeah.
And realize and remember that they stand for something so much bigger than they realize. They just have to remember.
Yeah, and I mean, I had the opportunity to experience, and we went to volunteer at one of these places and feeding this kid who was deaf, mute, blind, and just not being able to imagine what that life would be like.
Right.
But, knowing that he can't hear me,
Yeah.
but energy, you can feel energy.
Yeah.
So
That was a powerful day.
let me just give you some good energy right now. But that was a life-changing experience, man. And I will say this, you have created the best retreat on the planet. Warrior Retreat, don't at me. There is not a greater retreat on the planet. I mean, you take people down there who, basically are giving back. And that's the biggest part. Like, because when you go down there with a heart of giving,
Yeah.
what you get in return,
Yeah.
you can't buy with money.
Yeah.
So I commend you for
Thank you.
that Warrior Retreat. And while we were there,
Yeah.
there was some civil unrest.
Yeah.
The president was arrested,
Yeah.
and the people protested. They shut down the roads, they shut down the airport, so all flights were canceled, and we were stuck there essentially, for another week. And was no idea when we were going to be able to leave. And so we were in Cusco at the time. Cusco is where the airport is.
Yeah.
And we decided to go back to Samadhi, the Sacred Valley, which
Yeah.
was by car, maybe like 3-hour trip.
Yeah.
But the roads are closed.
Yeah.
But we had the idea we're gonna make it. So we leave at 5:30 in the morning to go back to Samadhi. We get in the car, our driver, it's almost like Mario Kart because he's driving full speed around all of the barriers. There's barriers in the road, trees, like the people just shut down the road for miles and miles and miles, right? And so we drive for like 20 minutes and we stop and we talked to a man on the side of the road, our driver did. And basically they spoke in Spanish, come to find out it was a roadblock ahead. And so we got in the car, we drove, and we see this roadblock, and we stop, we get out to talk. And what happened when we got out to talk?
Yeah, I mean, in all the years I've been going down to Peru, there's always something going down.
Yeah,
But this was like a new level of something.
yeah,
I haven't seen anything like that. So we get out of the car, and the reason why we got to go back to Sacred Valley is because a couple nights previous, we had to leave like super quick, and I ended up leaving all my stuff there. So I was like in my pajamas,
Right.
getting everybody to Cusco to make sure that they could get on a plane and go to the airport. So I had to get back there to get my stuff, to get my wallet. So I heard that the only time I was gonna be able to get in was at a certain slot in the morning. And so at first I feel like we're good to go.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Keith was the only person I asked to go because I felt like he was the only one that was down. It takes a little bit of street to like navigate
100%.
civil unrest. And so we get down to this roadblock, and all of a sudden these people start running after us with slingshots and rocks. And so it freaks the taxi driver out. We end up hopping in the car and driving up the road a little bit. But then something inside of us just stopped and felt this calling to like go forth and go forward.
Yeah.
And I think that was just our intuition, and all those years of, you know, navigating crazy situations that was speaking to us, letting us know it was gonna be okay. What was really wild is the taxi driver wasn't going back.
Right.
Because the farmers and the people who were protesting were against anything that was of the establishment. And so me and Keith, we start to walk towards this barricade of people. And the closer we get, at first we think it's like straight goons. The closer we get, we start to realize it's grandmas and grandpas.
Man.
Standing for something, standing for truth, standing against injustice.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most picturesque moments I've ever experienced. There was the morning fog that like encapsulated the whole valley, and it was this like ancient energy there of these people that were standing for their truth regardless of what the government was going to tell them. It was so important for me to witness that, and I just remember as you and me are walking through there, bro, that moment will be etched in my mind forever because there was a serenity to it.
Yeah.
And an honoring. It was like a deep honoring to feel and experience like those people's plight. And it was also Peru. You know, Peru for 7 years has been providing so many lessons to hundreds of leaders from around the world, starting off as a 7-day retreat, growing into a 14-day retreat. Every time we go to Peru, we ask, how can we give back? And Peru delivers so much to us. I feel like that was Peru's initiation and her opportunity to say, okay, you guys want to see really what it's about? I'm going to show you, and I'm going to gift you some gems and gifts that you can take with you back into your world and into your fight. And so that day, man, was one of the most powerful days I've ever experienced, and there's so many layers to it.
So many layers. And so just to go back, before we walked through the crowd, and we were out of the car, a motorcycle pulled up. And so we made the decision the only way we can get to Samadhi is on a motorcycle. So we asked the guy if he had a friend. He left. He came back and he said he had a friend, but we had to walk through that same crowd of people who just chased us to get on the motorcycle. And I remember you asking me, like, what do you want to do? I said, shit, I'm down for whatever. So we put our backpacks on and we basically like walked through, and like you said, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced, to see these people standing in solidarity together, like families, you know? And we walked through, it was nothing but respect. We get on the motorcycles, we ride motorcycles. Long story short, at some point on the journey, I'm on the bike with this kid, Christian, 17-year-old. You're on the bike with the original guy, who's probably like in his 50s. Christian decides to speed up and get in front. So, and we're going around a mountain at the time. So Christian speeds up, we get in front of you guys. He loses control, boom, and we crash. So I go down hard. As soon as I go down, I look to the left. Your guy loses control, and you guys crash. And so I'm looking at you. You get up, you come and check on me. At this time, I'm like the Dave Chappelle skit with Rick James. My legs are like linguine. I can't stand up. I'm like, yo, just give me a minute. And so I was like, check on them. And so I opened my backpack. Mind you, we left at 5:30 in the morning. So we've had nothing to eat, nothing to drink. I have a canteen. I have about this much water in the canteen. I open it, take a swig. Yo, B, I found a swig of water. I give you the other swig. Everything was like a movie. A little girl was walking with her mom at the time, eating crackers, and I go, un niño, un cracker, por favor. So she looks at me, and she gives me a cracker. I break the cracker, I eat a half, I give you a half. So at this point, we got
right there.
half a cracker and like a sip of water in our system. It took like 15 minutes to recalibrate. I was able to get back up, and we got on the motorcycles again. And you were like, yo, you get on with the other guy, I'm gonna get on with the young dude. So we drive for no more than 10 minutes, and we run into another barricade. We get off the bikes. This time, these dudes, they like brolic, and they come in super aggressive. Christian sees, he leaves, takes off. So it's me, you, Hurt, and the old man. They grab something, they shank his tires go flat. We like, yo, we hurt. We just trying to make it to Samadhi. So they let us through, and we ended up taking like a 5 to 6 hour journey on foot to make it to Samadhi. After we just got off a motorcycle accident, right? What did that journey mean for you? What did you get from that?
That journey meant so much on so many levels. One, to be able to walk with another brother in the backcountry of Peru.
Which I think we might be the only two black dudes in the history of mankind that took that journey on foot.
I guarantee it. It. In the back country too, like down those like old school roads.
Yeah.
Because you have like your main road, which was all blocked off from protests, and then you have like the local road, and that's where we ended up, walking. And it was just after a year of so much turbulence, with my mother passing and everything, and then after hosting warrior retreats. Now we're talking about 4 or 5 days after the retreat ended. To have that solitude, just to walk in peace in the mountains with, one of my favorite people in the world, and just take in Peru with somebody that got it. Because it wasn't just about the destination, and it wasn't about the journey, it was about the company. It could have been some weird person, and it would have been a whole different thing
journey, bro.
That couldn't even have appreciated the beauty of it.
And I don't know if you felt like this, but it felt like the closer we got to the destination, the stronger we got, the more excited we got, the more empowered we got, bro. Right? I remember like walking, and you pointed to the mountains, and it was like a group of trees, and you're basically like, we just got to make it to the other side of that. That's where the resort is. And so what I got from it was that no matter what, just keep your eye on the goal, the prize, and keep stepping forward, and you will make it there. But I want to know, like, what was something that you took away from that?
There was so many gems. That was a master class.
Yeah.
It taught me to trust that when you do take the journey, although you might not know how you're going to make it, the right resources, the right people are going to pop up at just the right time. Like when we walked by that Peruvian farmhouse and they spoke no English, and our Spanish is like super small.
Yeah.
And they offered us strawberries and water, boiled the water for us so that it was clean.
Right.
And like gave us the nourishment to keep going. And it was just a reminder again and again that when we have the goal in mind, the destination in mind, the vision in mind, the path is not always going to be clear, and that's what makes the path incredible. That's what makes walking towards our goals, dreams, and visions so beautiful, is the adventure of it, is the courage to step into the adventure and then trust whatever comes, and that whatever we need is going to appear. And so it was a reminder just to trust the journey. Another thing that came through was just an appreciation for where I come from. Appreciation for me being built different than most. Because I know 99% of people and most of the warriors that were on the warrior retreats.
I would say 99.9.
Yeah.
Like, think about this. We basically, 99.9% of people. 0.9 will not walk through a crowd that just chased them like violently. They weren't chasing us to like come play with us. They chased us with weapons. we chose to walk through.
Yeah.
99.9% of people
bro.
will not get right back on a motorcycle that just crashed because they kept their eye on the mission and like, yo, we got to get there. Most people are not gonna do that. So not everybody was built for that at all.
Only you and me.
Yeah.
For that moment. And that's what's beautiful about it, is Peru, I feel like, wanted to show us exactly who we were. You go to Peru, you go on these deep spiritual experiences, you go into plant medicine, inevitably to find out who you really are. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that comes in the form of some psychedelic indigenous plant. Sometimes it comes in the form of yoga. Sometimes it comes in the form of therapy. And sometimes it comes in the form of a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Where you walk 40 plus kilometers with one of your brothers, where you don't know what's going on, but you know that that person you're walking with has your back regardless. And that's the one thing that I knew as we were walking towards the barricades.
Yeah.
There was nothing in me that was stressing. And I knew if it got crazy, like I had a rider with me.
We was in it, bro.
Yeah.
Like all in on all in.
All in on all in.
We embodied the name of that retreat.
Yeah.
Warrior.
Yeah.
We came out warriors.
100%.
With scars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Knuckles
beat,
all
beat
like,
down a little bit. My knee is still healing up,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, true warriors.
And then, you know, at the end, when we got towards the end, there was the truck that came, finally. It took us only one mile of like the 26 plus mile journey or something like that.
The universe was like, okay, y'all got it. Y'all got everything y'all were supposed to get. We'll give you a little, he saved us about 15, 20 minutes, but it was great, man. One thing that I remember vividly walking with you to Samadhi is, you said this Muhammed Ali quote to me. You remember that quote? It was about vision and like how God sees me. And if I start, can you repeat that? It was so powerful.
It's not a written quote. Nobody's ever actually quoted it.
Yeah.
But it's been seared into my soul. And it's Muhammad Ali right before he fights George Foreman. Mm-hmm. And at this time, Muhammad Ali is considered washed up. Muhammad Ali is considered crazy for taking this fight. The press at that time was like, Muhammad Ali has a death wish. His own team was like, you were gonna get killed by George Foreman.
Yeah.
And so there's this video that they have, and I believe it's in the documentary Once We're Kings. Mm-hmm. And it's just in his room, and somebody's just recording him, and he's sitting there, and he's speaking to himself in the affirmative, and he's saying, do you know what kind of mind I got? Do you know what kind of mind I got? Do you know what kind of power I got? I got a God power. I got God flowing through me. Now George Foreman looks little to me. Now the press structure that tells me I'm going down is nothing to me. Now when he hits me, I don't feel anything because I got a power. I got a power in my hand. I got a power. He's like, I got a power that's beyond this. I got a power that is so big that I'm not focused on earth because my God controls the universe. And he was affirming to himself that he was so much bigger than this, that there was forces and energies that were working on his behalf to truly bring his greatness to life. He also said, I told myself I was the greatest before I knew I was the greatest. Yeah. That's like the greatest quote ever. I told myself I was the greatest before I even knew I was the greatest. Muhammad Ali was just this testament of like tuning in and trusting and serving something bigger than ourselves. He always says, service to others is the rent we pay for our time here on earth.
Yeah.
And as we were walking that day, it was just also an ode to all the ancestors that laid it down for us to be walking the back country of Peru as black men.
From the hood of Las Vegas and the hood of South Central.
And a reminder that God got us.
Yeah, 100%.
This universe has our back.
And that quote, to me, encapsulated all of that. And it was a reminder to just remember who we were created by and how great we are. We don't have to get caught up in the mundane and the everyday, because this is temporary and illusions. You know, the truth and the reality is we are here for something great.
Yeah.
We've been through everything we've been through in life in order to help somebody else. Black boys that look like us that are going through the same things that we went through or worse. Like, now we have been shown, we're initiated by fire.
Yeah.
And we got a story to tell. It's not like a philosophy like, oh, this is what I think. Nah, we live this.
Yeah.
Live this.
Yeah.
Not everybody can say that, bro. Matter of fact, I only know one other person that can say that, and I'm sitting with them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, it was an honor to take that journey with you, and it meant so much, man. So it's definitely something that will never be forgotten. You know, we came back kings from that.
Isn't it amazing how that momentum from Peru carries into our everyday lives post-warrior?
Yeah. You operate differently. You're seeing from a different set of lenses, like things that may have bothered you before. It's like that. I'm thinking from an elevated position, not in a lofty way, but just like with a God mind.
Yeah.
You know, with confidence.
Yeah. Confidence.
Yeah.
Shout out to, is that Lou?
I think that's Lou. Shout out to Lou with the confidence, man. That's a bar as well.
I was like, confidence? That's hard, right there.
It was so many bars on this trip, man.
You know what's crazy is when Warrior first started, it was only 7 days.
Yeah.
And then we expanded it to 14 days. And at first, I just went to the Amazon jungle by myself.
Yeah.
But then Warrior 4, because we're at Warrior 7 now, going on Warrior 8. At Warrior 4, it was like, you know what? I need to open up the jungles. And when I opened up the jungles, I made it optional. Everybody showed up except one dude. And after that, he was like, I wish I wouldn't have missed that. And so that's when it went from a 7-day retreat to a 14-day retreat.
Yeah.
And I don't even like calling it a retreat because it's more than that. It's truly a rite of passage. 100%. But I feel like 14 days is a long enough time, if you're open, to truly allow a new vibratory set point to like ground in. And that's why it is the amount of time it is. And that's why we only do one a year, is because it takes so much energy to hold a container like that and to bring our best forward to say thank you to Peru. And I'm just so excited not only to continue to do this, but to also bring more BIPOC individuals into the indigenous medicine spaces and into psychedelics. And that's the one thing that I see a lot, is that it is an industry that sometimes is dominated by a particular shade of skin.
Right.
And I think it's really important for young men like us, for people of color, to have the opportunity to tap back into Mother Nature, tap back into indigenous ways of healing, because essentially that is something that's always been there until these wisdoms and these knowledges were stripped from us by colonialization. And so to be able to steward and hold a true rite of passage experience like that in Peru is an honor. And I'm excited to continue to share and continue to open up the doors for more people to come down and truly reconnect with their hearts.
Yeah, man. Well, I am honored, bro, to know you, and you are truly a one-on-one. You are an amazing leader, and yo, can we announce Warrior Black? Can we do that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yo, so not only did you found Warrior Retreats, but tell me about Warrior Black.
So Warrior Black has been ideating for a while, and as I was going deeper in my own journey, I started noticing that most of the people that were coming to my retreats, most of the people that I would see in these spiritual hubs like Bali, like Tulum, like Costa Rica, were white people. And although that's cool, and I'm really like proud and encouraging of people going on that journey, for me not to be also teaching people that look like me, for me not to be reaching the younger me and you who were once 15, 16, 17, that had no guidance, would be a disservice. And so Warrior Black is going to be an opportunity to come together with my brothers, Keith is going to be deeply involved to bring more people of color into the indigenous rites of passages, into plant medicine, and into community where the container is created in a way to really catalyze growth, heal wounds, and heal ancestral trauma so that we can all stand in our power, especially during these pivotal times in humanity where we are being asked to truly bring our gifts to life in the most powerful way possible. And so once I got the logo done, I sent it over to you. It felt like it was real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I'm excited to change the world with you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If your life was a book, what would this chapter be called?
This chapter right here would be called The God Pocket.
The God Pocket. Break that down. What's the God Pocket?
So the God Pocket is this concentrated cave, ashram, temple of energy that I discovered during my mom's passing. As my mom passed, and a lot of people don't know that she passed in a very traumatic way. She went walking and she ended up passing out due to heat stroke. And they found her on the sidewalks in Vegas. So the streets that caused us so much trials and tribulation also literally took my mom.
Wow.
And so that at that time, I really wanted to honor her. I wanted to honor her legacy. And although I was grieving, I didn't want to let that grief consume me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let that grief have me slipping back into, toxic vices and bad habits. And so I said, what would happen if I focused all my energy on exactly what God had for me? And I didn't deviate from that. What would happen if I cut out everything that was a distraction, that wasn't in alignment with my highest self? And so in July last year, I stepped into the God Pocket. And from July to November, right before Warrior, I stayed in the God Pocket. And the seeds that were planted, that go right alongside what I've heard you proclaim a lot about the harvest.
Yes, sir.
The seeds that were planted blossomed in ways that I've never seen happen in my life. Goals that I have for so long blossoming out of nowhere. Goals beyond anything I could have imagined all of a sudden popping up as if the whole entire universe, as Paulo Coelho would say, was conspiring for my highest good. And I realized at that moment that a lot of people are like 80% in the God Pocket, 70% in the God Pocket, which is why a lot of people are only getting 80 or 70% of their life's highest calling.
Right.
Once I immersed myself completely in the God Pocket, everything began to shift. And so this year, my proclamation and my declaration was that is a year focused on everything that God has for me, and any energy that is not in alignment with that cannot be in my field. And so this year is truly, I'm treating like a championship year, a year of great service, a year of great contribution, a year of great love and great connection, and a year of awe. My prayer is, God, show me how powerful you are. And I will listen, and I will move, and I will die for what my heart is calling me forward towards.
Yeah. Well, you're going to live for it, because that's what we're called to do, is live. So, man, I love it, bro. It's been an honor. Where can people find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is my living journal, at Branden Collinsworth. It's a place where people can connect with me, connect with my words, connect with my inspiration, and also connect with my offerings. I also have all of my lectures on the Do You Mind app. I have 180 plus lectures on there. Twice a week I go live and just share different truisms, everything from how to create life rooted more in discipline, to healing attachment styles, to how to love yourself even more. And then super proud that my TED Talk just dropped. It was a long time coming, an ode to my mother. So for those that want to check out my TED Talk on the YouTube, just type in Branden Collinsworth TED Talk and it'll be right there. And then Warrior Retreats is, the wait list is open.
Yes.
And we already have about 200 people on the wait list.
Yeah. And I just want to say this about Warrior Retreats. As my brother would say, it doesn't matter who you are, the blue checks don't matter. You can't buy your way into this. How do people get in? What's the one element they need to be a warrior?
The one element that people need to get into Warrior Retreats is beyond money. It's called heartbeat.
Heart.
Because when the heart's in the right place, everything else falls into place. And that's the most potent symbol of wealth that one could hold.
Yeah. Well, bro, from the heart, I love you. I see you. I honor you. You are a king. You're a god. And it's just exciting to watch what you create. And the world is yours, man. Whatever you want, you can have. So, man, let's continue to build. You're my brother. I could talk to you forever. We definitely gonna have to do this again, man. But it was an honor to break bread with you.
Absolutely, brother. It was an honor. I'm proud of you. And in the words of the yogic lineage, namaste. The light and the dark in me respects and reflects the light and dark in you. And for that reason, we are one. So let's continue to shine.
Namaste. My brother. Yes. Let's get this food in us.
Fire, bro.
Man, yo, this shit right here.
Yeah.
Some black boys gonna see this, man.
Yeah, bro.
I'm telling you.
They're gonna be like, Mama, what's ayahuasca?
Mm-hmm. Ayahu.
Ayahu.